Welcome to our webinar, Entrepreneurial Time Control. The essential word here in the title is control. We all have the same amount of time available to us. It's how we use it that makes all the difference. Successful people, successful entrepreneurs use their time differently than those who struggle to get by, constantly running out of time, way too much to do, and can't get anything accomplished. And so today I'm going to give you some very simple techniques to use that you can employ beginning right now to take control of your time. Once you do that, you will start to see things change. You'll start to see that you're able to get more done. And let me just say right off the bat, this webinar is not designed to help you pack more stuff into every day. You know, that's not really what time management is about. Time management forever has been about trying to free up time and give us more of this thing that we call discretionary time. And in today's world, that's really what wealth is. It's not so much the money. Money is a tool that we use to create discretionary time. And discretionary time is the measure of real wealth in the 21st century. We have devices that are supposed to make our lives easier. We have a lot of technology at our disposal, and yet we seem to be racing faster and faster, getting less and less done. So we're not going to be talking about how to cram more stuff into your day. We're going to be talking about how to create more discretionary time. Discretionary time is the time that you get to use however you see fit. Whether it's time with your family, whether it is more time in your business, more time with your customers, creating more customers. It's up to you how you use that time. But the key is that you will control it. I'm going to talk about a lot of common things that I hear from entrepreneurs in terms of their time management. You know, if time management really worked as well as it should have, there wouldn't be any new time management books or materials being produced out there. And yet, it seems like every day something new is being created to help people better manage their time. Well, inventory gets managed, people get led, time gets controlled. You should be able to control that, control access to your time. And there are a lot of things out there that are trying to take over your time. They're trying to bleed your time away from you. So what are those things? There are time vampires. And here's some very common things that you probably run into on a day-to-day basis. Email was supposed to make our lives easier. I remember in my first business back in the mid-90s, we thought email was going to be the cure-all for our distance woes. That we had two locations 4 hours apart, and yet we were going to be able to control everything through email. And for a while it worked because it was great. But today we found that the way we use email takes up too much of our time because we have become slaves to our email system. So if you have not yet done this, do it today. And if you're listening to this in a recorded version, stop the recording right now and do this. It will pay dividends for you beyond your wildest belief. If you still get a notification every single time an email comes across your inbox, turn it off. Turn off all of those dings, beeps, flashes, screen splashes, all the notifications that you get. Turn them off. To hear you've got mail back in the 90s was a kind of a cool thing, and now it's just burdensome. So let's get away from that. There are going to be certain times that you can check your email, but you don't have to be beholden to it 24/7. In fact, email is just that. I mean, the main word there is mail. It's not a chat service. It's not an instant messenger. It's not a way for people to have access to you immediately. If they need access to you immediately, hopefully they can reach you by phone. Meetings. Look, everybody hates meetings, and I have a confession to make. I have a nickname, and my nickname is Skedaddles, because I have a penchant for getting up and leaving useless meetings where I'm not giving anything or not getting anything. If it's a waste of my time, I'll often go to the bathroom and never return. So meetings seem to be this abyss that we fall into because we feel like we have to. If you have the power to stop meetings, stop the meetings, or change the way you're doing meetings. One of the things that folks have tried in the past is in meetings, everybody drinks a bottle of water 30 minutes before the meeting. First person who has to go to the restroom, the meeting's over. Another thing that folks have tried is to meet while standing up. And if you do that, eventually people are going to start to wander off. They're going to decide that this meeting is not worth me having to stand here. I'm getting out. There are all kinds of things you can do to shorten your meeting duration. We talk about having agendas and meeting notes and things like that. Well, a lot of times if you can send an agenda and meeting notes, you really don't have to have the meeting. Go back to email. I mean, right above the meetings is the answer. There are a lot of things, and you've probably been in meetings like this where you've sat there and wondered, why couldn't someone just send me an email about all of this? And so it seems to be one of the necessary evils of the business world, but we really don't have to suffer that. The key to a good meeting is to be brief and be done. Be as complete as you can and get out as quickly as you can. Now, let me stop here and say the title of this webinar is Entrepreneurial Time Control. There are going to be things that I talk about today that can be helpful to those of you who are working for someone else. Don't get me wrong. There are going to be things that you can use. However, you don't own the business. And if you don't own the business, you don't make the rules. And so there are going to be meetings that you can't get out of. There are going to be interruptions that you have to react to, which is next on our list. There are going to be things that you have to do simply because you don't make the rules. So don't get frustrated that there are going to be things we talk about today and you say, well, I can't do anything about that. What I'd like for you to do, if you work for someone else, is pick out the few things that will work for you and employ those. But we do tend to be reactionary when it comes to interruptions. We let things bother us, and we don't have a good mechanism for stopping the interruptions, for stopping people from interrupting us. But we tend to move with the ebb and flow of whatever's happening around us, and we have to stop that. Multitasking is the greatest lie of the 20th century, that we could do more than one thing at a time. Well, in the 21st century, we have come to find that your brain is only good for about 2 tasks at one time, 2 cognitive tasks. Yes, you can breathe, walk, chew gum, see, take in sights, do a lot of things, have a conversation. True, that's multitasking, but a lot of that has to do with the part of your brain that doesn't rely on your thinking about it. You know, if you're breathing and blinking, you're multitasking, but you're not really thinking about it. But if you're driving and talking on a cell phone, if you're driving and texting, yes, that's the kind of multitasking that the brain is just not wired to do. So brain researchers have in the last 5 to 10 years found that we are much better off and much more productive, much healthier, much safer if we do one thing, do it to completion, and then move on to something else. You start compiling more than about 2 tasks and forcing your brain to work on more than 2 tasks at a time. It really does slow us down. Things take longer, and things don't get done. What we have, if we try to multitask, is a big pile of what's called half work. These are things that you got into but never finished. Now, we can say that we did 4 things at a time, but did we finish any of them? If the answer is no, then let's stop multitasking. Let's start doing one thing at a time. As painful as that can be for some of us to think that we're being less productive, we're actually going to be more productive. A disorganized workspace. Everything has its place, and every place, or everything in place, and a place for everything, so to speak. So if you have a disorganized workspace, you're probably reaching for things that you don't have, or looking for things that should be there, but you just can't find them. So take 15 minutes, clean up your workspace, clean your desk, clean your office. During Christmas of 2013, my family asked, what would you like to have for Christmas? I said, I want 3 days where nobody messes with me, nobody talks to me. I just want some time to be in my office and to get some things done. And they granted my request. That's what I got for Christmas. And so I took all of the paperwork in my little office, which is about a 7-foot by 5-foot space. It's very small, and most of that's taken up with an old wooden desk. And I started to scan everything into my computer. I put everything into Dropbox, and I put a lot of things into Evernote. If you've not tried Evernote, you need to try that, because it is a wonderful tool that will help you organize everything. It really removes the need to think about things and remember a lot of details. But cleaning up that space, I got rid of 80 pounds of paper. I was able to shred a lot of things and become much more productive just by having that organized workspace. Now, what we call surfing the web is really a misnomer. Surfing implies that we paddle out, we catch a wave, and we surf back to the shore. And what really happens is we build a raft and we drift aimlessly for hours. And we wake up, we don't realize why we're online, but now we know everything about Lindsay Lohan. And so be very careful about how we spend the time on the web. And what I recommend is just an old-fashioned mechanical Sunbeam kitchen timer. You crank that thing to about 10 or 15 minutes, give yourself some time to really bear down and look for the things that you're there to find. When it dings, you leave. I was once working with a small-town attorney. He was a one-man band, and he was convinced that he needed a secretary, a receptionist, a legal assistant, a paralegal. He needed all these people to clear his caseload. And when we really started looking at how he was spending his time, we found out that he was spending an inordinate amount of time surfing the web. He would go online to LexisNexis or to another such service to try to find information on a case law. And then he would say, well, I'm here. I might as well check the news. Let me check the weather. Let me go to ESPN and check the sports. 2 hours later, he hadn't accomplished anything. But he was well-read in pop culture and current events. It didn't help him clear his caseload. So the simple act of limiting the amount of time he spent on the internet was a huge factor in making him more productive. He's still, to this day, as far as I know, a one-man band, works by himself, and his caseload became cleared in a matter of weeks. And he's been very successful ever since then. So there are things out there that are working against us, that are trying to take our time and bleed our time away from us. And we have the power to control how we react to those things. A lot of small business owners waste time on some common things that I've seen and that relate to some of these vampires. Number one is too many people spend too much time working on non-money-making issues. We're always thinking about growing our market. We're always thinking about developing that next product or creating a new service. Are we working instead on the things that we can make money at today? Why are we ignoring the things that we could monetize today, the things that we could sell today, the things that we could produce today, in lieu of the things that we might create or we might solidify in our minds 2 weeks from now? General George Patton once said that a good plan, violently executed today, always beats a perfect plan executed in 2 weeks, because 2 weeks never comes. There will always be something else in the way. So let's find those things that make money. Those are what I would call our core competencies. Some people have called that our core genius activities. Whatever those things are, we need to focus on those core activities that make us money. We really have two aspects of our time that we can control. One is on the productive things that we do, and another is on the non-productive things that we do. There are going to be things in your business that you have to do to keep the lights on. You have to pay the bill. You have to go to the office supply store. You have to go to the post office. You have to go to the bank. Those are all things that you must do, but they don't pay the bills. They're not income producing. So we want to minimize the time that we spend on that as much as possible. Let's focus on working on the money-making things. Another thing that we get trapped into is networking and meetings and social media. We think that this is doing us a lot of good. Well, really, what we're doing is just socializing. We go to networking events with no agenda, no purpose, no outcome in mind, and we just talk to people and we enjoy their company, and that's fine. But we don't really accomplish anything. Meetings, I've addressed. I hate meetings. If I never went to another meeting again as long as I lived, I would be fine. If you can't avoid that, find a way to lend your input to help minimize the time spent in meetings. Social media, another great lie of the 21st century is that social media is good for business. Well, it can be. But if you're just on Facebook sharing cat pictures, that's not doing a lot to grow your business. So if you're using social media to market your business, let's think about how to use social media in a wiser way. Can we limit ourselves to 30 minutes a day and get everything done that we need to do? Now, that doesn't mean that you can't go home and plop down in front of a sitcom at night and check your Facebook page. You can do that, and then, send those cat pictures. But when it comes to business, how productive are we really at converting the people who like us, the people who follow us, into paying customers? That really should be the focus, and that becomes then, takes it from a non-money making issue to a money making issue. Small business owners are terrific time wasters when it comes to making assumptions. Number one, we assume that all of our customers are just like us. Why wouldn't they be? I love what I'm selling. Why wouldn't you? And so we spend time chasing the wrong customers. I'll get to that here in just a second, but all of these assumptions pile up to cause us to lose focus. The assumptions that we have certain customers who are not our customers. The assumption that what we have is going to sell. The assumption that our price is right. The assumption that our marketing is the right marketing mix. The assumptions that we have the right people. Often we find that we have the wrong people, and because of the assumption, we're spending an inordinate amount of time training, retraining, correcting, fixing. So let's check our assumptions. Let's make sure that our assumptions are all correct before we move forward, because we're going to spend our time spinning our wheels, and it's not going to get us anywhere. We also have too many irons in the fire. This, a lot of times, comes from the very first thing on the list, non-money-making issues. Let's take those irons out of the fire. Let's work on one thing at a time, and let's make sure that one thing at a time is as close to making money as we can get it. Now, here's one of my favorites. Hiding your idea. How many small business owners have you talked to who are afraid to tell you what they do? It could very well be that you could help them in their business. You could sell to them, or you could buy from them, but they're so afraid that you're going to steal from them that they don't want to tell you what they're doing. There are no great secrets out there. Unless you have come up with a cure for cancer or a new energy source that will completely eliminate fossil fuels, you really don't have a great secret worth hiding. There are no secrets. Somebody else out there has probably tried it, has probably done it and failed, is probably doing it and succeeding, and you just don't know about it. So don't waste your time hiding your idea. Get that idea out there and monetize it. Let's turn it into some cash. Probably the biggest thing of all is just chasing customers who aren't. We spend so much time trying to convince people to buy who will never buy. Now, if you have a hobby business, you're probably in better shape than most, because your customers probably do look like you. They probably act like you. They make the same decisions the same way that you do. But that's because it's a hobby and it's a common interest. But if you're selling clothing and your customer is between 18 and 30 and yet you're selling pantsuits, you're probably not going to get a lot of those customers. Just because you like pantsuits doesn't mean that you're going to be able to sell to the 18 to 30-year-old crowd. Let's go out there and find what they want to buy. One of my favorite stories is I was working with a couple of young ladies who wanted to start a hot dog cart. Now, before this, they wanted to start a juice bar. And the juice bar idea, I could just see, was not going to work with the population in the area where they were. And instead of trying to tell them that this wasn't going to work, we just let them find it out for themselves when they wrote their business plan. Now, these two young ladies were lovely young ladies, perfectly brilliant, and had a great idea. Sometimes a great idea is not right for this place or this time or the way we're going to go about it. And so they were also vegans, and so they wanted to do a lot of vegetable juices and vegan drinks and things like that. There might have been 3 vegans in the entire service area. So they came back in a couple of weeks and they said, we decided not to do a juice bar. And I thought, wow, that's great. They figured it out. They said, we're going to do a cart instead. I said, okay. Well, maybe a juice cart would work because it's more mobile, you carry less inventory. And they said, no, it's not a juice cart. It's going to be a hot dog cart. I said, wait a second, aren't you two vegans? And one of them looked me square in the eye and she said, we're going to sell them. We're not going to eat them. You see, they had to figure out what their customers were willing to buy. They had to stop chasing the customers who weren't their customers and start selling to the people who were. So with all of this, entrepreneurs say the darndest things. They tell me these things all the time. Let's talk about this for a second. It's not what you're doing, it's how we're doing it. And too far, too quick. Here are some things that small business owners tell me, and see if you have ever uttered any of these lines. I don't have time to take a vacation. I can't leave anyone else in charge. I'm working harder and going nowhere. I feel so burned out. I'm busy producing, but I feel like I'm losing my creativity. I don't have very much money, so I have to do everything myself. Or I just don't have time for fill in the blank. These are pretty common sentiments among entrepreneurs. It's not that what we're doing is wrong, it's how we're going about it is incorrect. We're trying to do things in an intentional way, but we're letting a lot of other things get in our way and control our time, and that's unintentional. So what we have to do is take control of the intention and stop letting the unintentional things get in our way. And that's where Dan Sullivan comes in. Dan Sullivan came up with what he calls the Entrepreneurial Time Management System. And it has 3 components. One of those components is a free day. That's where we have playtime, and I'll go into these in a little more depth in just a second, but we basically break our days down into 3 categories. One is a free day. Another is called a focus day. And then the third day is your productive day, and it is it's what we call a buffer day, rather. A buffer day. Buffer days are your practice days. Just like if you were playing basketball or football or soccer, you're going to have days where you're totally on your game. You're playing, you're in the game, you're there. Those are your focus days. The days when you're practicing, well, that's your buffer days. The days when you are relaxing and recovering from a tough game, those are your free days. So we're going to go into these and talk about how you can categorize your time into these different kinds of days. I have suggested this system to a lot of different types of people, and it works exceptionally well, because for our left-brained people who are very analytical, some are very type A, very driven. They want to work all the time. What they don't realize is that by doing that, they get burned out very quickly. And so the play day gives them some structured time away from the work. However, you also have some right-brained folks, and I work with a lot of artists who feel the need to be creative all the time, and they have a difficult time bearing down and just producing and making those things that they need to sell at this weekend's festival or next weekend's event, or put online and replenish the things that they've sold. So these three types of days are the key to really taking control of our time. Now, Sullivan calls it entrepreneurial time management system. I'm going to go a little deeper, and I'm going to give you some ways to control it. We need to stop trying to manage time and control it instead, because we can control access to our time. We can control how we use our time. We have the same number of hours as the most productive people in the world. We have the same number of hours as the laziest person in the world. What we have to do is get a handle on it. And it begins with habits that are shared by great entrepreneurs. Here are some things that I've found in my study in dealing with entrepreneurs and talking with very successful people. What are some of the things that they do that make them more successful? Number one, they have a daily routine. Their workflow is a regular workflow, and they don't deviate from that. If you think about your day, you probably do have a routine that is essentially the same from the time you wake up to the time you get in the car to go to your office. You wake up, you make your bed, you brush your teeth, you take a shower, whatever it is that you do in the morning. You could probably do that with your eyes closed and do it without thinking. That becomes one of the non-cognitive functions of our brain, that we just build this routine. But then what happens when we get to work is our day explodes. Everything else gets in the way, and it disrupts our regular flow. Well, successful people don't let that happen. They also have a daily roadmap. This can be as simple as a to-do list. Now, the dirty little secret with a to-do list is that we put too many things on our roadmap. Just like if you have a week vacation and you want to see a lot of things, you can put so many things on your to-do list, on your roadmap, that you get it all done, but you're exhausted at the end of your vacation. Successful people know that you should never put more than 3 to 5 things on your to-do list, and only 3 of those need to be critical items. If you can get 3 critical items done in a day, you're doing really, really well. They also prioritize those tasks. They know which tasks mean the most, or the most important, and the most urgent. Now, if we're only doing urgent things, that means we're running around putting out little fires. We don't have time to get to the important things. So let's make sure those important things get on the radar so that we do those every day. If we complete the important things and we do that in a timely way, then nothing becomes urgent. The little brush fires go away. They also follow through. Follow through just means that they don't procrastinate. Procrastination isn't even in their vocabulary. If they say they're going to do something, they do it, which leads us to the next thing on the list, is they don't do half work. If we're always out there trying to multitask, we will have a pile of half work, things that just didn't get completed. Successful people complete today's work today. If it's a phone call that needs to be made to an irate customer, make it today. That customer is not going to get happier between now and tomorrow. So let's find a way to get those things in that need to be done. A lot of people say, well, I'll just pile my bills up and I'll pay them once a month or once a week. I'll do this on Saturday. Well, then what happens when Saturday comes and something else gets in the way? Sit down when the bill comes in, pay it, move on. They also say no with impunity. Listen, no is a great word. It took me a long, long time to learn how to say no, but they have no guilt about saying no. Successful people know their limitations. In fact, Clint Eastwood in a Dirty Harry movie, I want to say it was The Enforcer, said a couple of times, man, got to know his limitations. And so I realized that he was so right. Dirty Harry was right. I have to learn how to say no to free up the time to do the things that I want desperately to say yes to. Now, the next two things on the list go together. Number one, they don't suffer unintentional downtime. If you have ever been to a doctor's office, a dentist's office, stuck in a traffic jam, forced to wait in the line at the DMV, anything like that where you really didn't plan to have to sit and wait, that's unintentional downtime. That is downtime. It's unproductive stuff that people have created for you, and they've pulled you into the vortex. So what's the answer there? If you carry an iPhone, an iPad, an Android device, or even just a crumpled up newspaper in your back pocket, always have something to do, something to read, something to keep you productive. You know, sitting in the line at the DMV might be the time to call your plumber. It might be the time to get the gutter guy out there to clean the gutters. All those little nitpicky things that have been sitting on your long-term to-do list that you need to get done. Don't suffer that unintentional downtime, but make sure you build in plenty of intentional downtime. That's what your free day is for, and I'm going to get into that in just a moment, but think about it this way. If you don't free your mind intentionally on occasion, it becomes cluttered. And if you've ever tried to clean out a closet, you know that you have to rip everything out of that closet before you can start putting things back in an orderly way. Your brain is kind of like that too. There are times when we just need to rip everything out of the closet, have some downtime, relax, and recharge. Successful people don't get roped into useless conversations either. It goes back to saying no. You can get out of those useless conversations, those time wasters, without being mean or nasty or ugly. A lot of times it's as simple as saying, I would love to talk with you. I really don't have time right now. I'm in the middle of something else. Can we talk later? If it's important, they'll seek you out. If it wasn't, then you don't have anything to worry about anyway. Successful, productive people do not suffer necessary evils. This is sitting through a movie that you hate because you paid $8 to go there. It's reading a 250-page book because you bought the book. If you're 30 pages in and you hate the book, put the book down. If your meal is no good or if you're full, put your fork down. If the movie's no good, get up and leave. If you're bored, get up and take a walk. Do not suffer unnecessary evils. Now, this last one seems really simplistic, but almost every single successful person I spoke with has a regular bedtime. I'll admit this is something I've still not been able to accomplish. I'm a night owl, so I like to stay up late and work on things when everybody else is in the bed, and sometimes I stay up a little too late. But by and large, better than 90% of the people that I interviewed have a regular bedtime that is somewhere between 10 and 10:30 at night. And over 90% of the people I spoke with were up by 6 o'clock in the morning. In fact, most of those people were up by 5:30 in the morning. You had a very few that were up as late as 6:30. If you're a night owl and you like to sleep late, you have to evaluate whether your business, whether your lifestyle is appropriate for that type of schedule. Most executives, most entrepreneurs tell me they prefer going to bed early, getting a good solid 8 hours of sleep, and getting up early, because the early morning hours is the time that they fully control. Nobody else is awake. They can go get coffee, they can read a newspaper, they can catch up on things that are going on in the world. They can check their stocks. They can exercise. They can meditate. Having a regular bedtime creates a condition where you are able to get up in the morning without stress, without an alarm clock in a lot of cases. So again, I'm preaching something here that I've not yet been able to do, but I'm on my way. That's one of the things that I definitely want to accomplish. So back to Sullivan's time management system, which I'm going to just take the liberty of calling it a time control system. What do we do with these days? On our play days, we call those our free days. Focus days are our focus days, but our buffer days are our practice days. On all of those different days, we need to be thinking 80-20. Now, Sullivan would probably argue that on your play day, you only play. You only relax. You don't check an email. You don't call a customer. Some small businesses just do not have that luxury. If you're a one-person operation or a two- or three-person operation and there's a critical call that comes in, while you're sitting on the beach, take the call. Look, it's going to be more stressful if you come back and the house is burned down at the end of your vacation than if you just go ahead and handle the small puff of smoke while you're sitting there on the beach. Think 80-20. On each of these days, you need to be 80% about that day, and 20% could be other stuff. My wife had a difficult time on one vacation. I was sitting on the beach, and we were reading a book and just enjoying the nice breeze and the ocean, and my phone rang, and she said, "Do not answer that. Do not answer that." I recognized the number. I said, "I've got to take this call. It won't kill me." Well, she was so upset that I was going to take this call. I took the call, and in 7 minutes, the call was over, and I had booked a speaking engagement that paid for that vacation. So it's not going to kill you to take a phone call, to check an email while you're on vacation. In fact, for most people, they tell me that it relieves a lot of stress, knowing that they don't have to come back to an avalanche of things when they return to work. You know, most of us don't work on an assembly line anymore. In the old days, assembly line worked 24/7. When it's your time to leave your shift, you walk away. Somebody else stands there and puts the thing in the thing. The work doesn't just pile up for you the next morning. But we don't live in that kind of economy anymore. At least small business owners don't. The work piles up. So let's think 80-20. Let's be 80-20 or 80% about the free day, 80% on the focus day, 80% on the buffer day. And I think we'll see some huge, huge benefits. So what about these days? Well, the free days, do this. You see that? It's just, there's nothing there. Do that. Focus on relaxation. Now, again, Sullivan would say, don't do email, don't do client calls, and don't think about work. I say, if you keep that in the 20% category, it's not going to kill you, and it may even help you when you get back to your business after that free day. So how many free days do you take? A good friend of mine, Mike Collins, on his Perfect Workday blog, you probably want to go look at that. It's perfectworkday.blogspot.com. Mike just today wrote an article on vacation and how a long weekend really does a lot more for him than a week or 2 week vacation. And I would wholeheartedly agree. I love what Tim Ferriss calls mini retirements. These days where you just take a long weekend or an extra long weekend, you get away, you do something that refreshes and recharges you so that when you come back, you're ready to go again. Most of the entrepreneurs I talk to can't afford to spend 2 weeks away from the business anyway. So let's plan some of these free days. It might be a Friday. Now, if you're like me, you hate Monday holidays because it seems like Tuesday is always a Monday when you come back. If I were king, I would say all holidays are on Friday instead of Monday. But I'm not king, so we endure it. But I love to take Fridays off, and Fridays are a great time to extend your weekend and stop thinking about work for a while. I know some folks who are artists and they work very hard when they're creating, but it's very draining. And so they like to string their free days together. They may take 2 or 3 free days together, but they spread those out a little bit, but it works for them. But your free days are just that. They're free. Your focus days. Spend 80% of your time on your core activities. Produce, produce, produce. Your focus days are all about getting the work done. Turning off the phone, turning off the distractions, getting out of the email, putting your nose to the grindstone, getting stuff done. Get the work out the door. Or, as Seth Godin says, ship. S-H-I-P. Ship it. If you never ship it, it is never going to make any money. So spend a lot of time on that core activity and then rinse and repeat. Sounds simple enough, right? Well, here are your buffer days. Your buffer days are all about practice, practice, practice. This is your training, your personal development. This is when you schedule your meetings and your networking. This way you're not thinking about being on the beach. You're not thinking about hiking in the mountains, but you're also not thinking about how much you have to get done. Because your buffer day is just that. It's the catch-all day to get all this other stuff done. This is where you catch up on your email. This is where you sit down and write your blog or your social media post. So keep in mind that there are some tools out there to help you do your social media posts. One that I really love is Hootsuite, Hootsuite. Hootsuite is a great tool that helps you plan and schedule out all of your posts. And I usually do this on a Sunday afternoon, so I don't have to spend this time every day posting something. And another is TweetDeck. TweetDeck is a great tool especially for Twitter. But we're spending our time on our buffer days on our non-core activities. There's lots of stuff to do. We got 3 kinds of days. It doesn't have to be an all or nothing because you are in control. If you want to convert one of your buffer days to a focus day, you're in control. You can do that. If somebody wants you to get something done on one of your free days, if you choose to do that, you can because you're in control. The key here is making an intentional decision to take control of your time and not let anyone else have control over it. Then you can start to parse out what you have to do throughout these 3 different days. You can schedule your meetings on your buffer days. You can schedule your training on your buffer days. You can schedule your production on your focus days, and on your free days, you can relax. Relax. Those type A folks are going to enjoy those play days because it's an intentional act. The right brainers, the creative types out there are going to love the focus days because it drives us to get out of creative mode and start turning what we can make and what we've already made into cash. So, another premise that I operate on in terms of controlling my time is when it's over, it's over. Just because we scheduled this webinar for an hour doesn't mean that we can't stop after 45 minutes. So that's what we're going to do. I want to bring your attention to something new that I would love for you to take advantage of. This is the eDashboard University. So many of us spend hours and hours every week in the car. When we think about how much time we spend listening to rock and roll, talk radio, books on tape or books on CD, all those things, they're great, but how much of the stuff we do behind the wheel helps us improve our business? Chances are, if you're like most folks, not a lot. The eDashboardUniversity.com is a subscription service where we're going to begin in September offering drive time teleseminars. Now, yes, these drive time teleseminars are going to be Eastern Daylight Time or Eastern Standard Time seminars. For those of us on the East Coast, it will be drive time. But for everyone else, downloadable podcasts These are going to be 30-minute bites throughout the month, throughout the year, where you can get information to help you improve your business, make more money, work less, and have a more fulfilling life. That's what this is all about. Spend that time behind the wheel as productively as you can. So if you go to e-dashboarduniversity.com, go ahead and sign up. You'll get an email response that puts you on the list. And as long as you get on this list, you're going to qualify for early bird pricing when we start in September rather. And in September, the monthly subscription rate for this is only $5 a month, and you're going to get access to the live teleseminars. You're also going to get access to the recorded versions. Now, the live teleseminars, we'll probably unmute some of those so that you can ask questions. We're going to play it by ear and see what works for the subscribers. And so I want to make this your time. It is your time behind the wheel, and you're captive. So let's make this as productive and as positive as we can make it. So before I go to the last slide and bid you adieu, is there anything that you would like to talk about? Down on the left-hand side, you're going to see a message box if you have something that you'd like to ask, anything that I can help you with in terms of controlling your time, getting a handle on your time. I'm more than happy to do that. If not, I'm going to go ahead and click to the last slide. I'll take your questions, and if there are no other questions, I bid you good day. Hope that you'll come back and visit us again in future webinars, and of course, sign up at e-dashboarduniversity.com and maximize your drive time and improve your business. Are there any questions? So if there are no other questions, we're going to go ahead and end today's webinar. I appreciate you being with me. We'll see you next time.